what did Butch Jones do to try to take credit for a Super Bowl victory and like the most distant 7 connections to Kevin Bacon you've ever heard of, sort of way?
Butch Jones thinks he created the wide receiver pass. That's what he thinks he created. So
Yes.
yesterday, after the trick pass where Jauan Jennings caught the screen and threw the touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey, Butch Jones tweeted out a video of Jauan Jennings doing the same thing where Josh Dobbs threw it to Jennings and Jennings threw it back to Dobbs, and Dobbs ran for a touchdown against Florida in 2015 when Butch Jones was there. Now, Dave, why do you tweet that? You tweet that as a subtle dig to say I came up with this first, don't you?
So is Butch Jones implying that he came up with a play that was run 2 coaching staffs that
Yes.
How could that play get from Butch Jones's head to San Francisco? I'm trying to figure it out.
He's thinking because it's Jauan Jennings in both instances that he did it. But yes, Butch Jones tweeted out that video. Now, you know what he didn't tweet out, Dave? You know what he didn't tweet out? That was that game. That was the game that Tennessee lost to Florida because Butch Jones didn't know that you go for 2 when you're up 20 when you score a touchdown to go up 26-14 in the fourth quarter. And that was the game where Butch Jones burned a timeout because he wasn't prepared for a field goal that Florida was going to kick in the middle of the third quarter. So you tweet out a game that is probably your worst coach game ever, and that's saying something because he had a lot of poorly coached games, okay? And you tweet out that one. It was so embarrassing, and you could so tell he was trying to subtly give himself credit for the Jauan Jennings touchdown pass that came out yesterday to say, well, we thought of this 8 years ago when Jauan Jennings was at Tennessee. That was what was going through Butch Jones's mind. It's one of the most embarrassing things.
The implication is Jawan goes to the Niners coaching staff late last week or early last week and says, hey, I got this guy. Maybe you've heard of him. His name's Butch. And they're like, oh, you mean the guy from Pulp Fiction? No. I mean the guy with the really, really bad $8 haircut. They say, oh, you mean Gomer Pyle? And you say, no. His name's Butch. And it's Butch Jones, and he was my college coach. And they're like, oh, you mean that sociopath we heard about in college? He goes, that's the guy. So, okay, so they're talking to him, and he said, despite his sociopathic tendencies and the fact that he would lie to me, I have this idea. He had this play that we would run a wide receiver pass. Thoughts? I mean, is that supposed to be the conversation that happened? Is that what Butch Jones actually inferring happened?
That's what I think he's inferring happened. Yes. I mean, he is, again, the guy, he wants us to believe, by the way, Dana Cutcliffe caught a receiver pass with Lucas Taylor multiple times for a touchdown when he was at Tennessee.
He didn't because he was a former play. No, I agree with you. He didn't invent the play. As a matter of fact, you should have done more, especially in college where you can play some lower level competition and give your top flight competition things to look at. You should have run more things with Jennings. I mean, he was a 3-star quarterback. I mean, let's not say that he was just a 4-star receiver that was an okay quarterback. He could have played quarterback at schools like MTSU, schools along those levels, and he almost did it, but he loved Tennessee. Turns out the guy loves Tennessee. His passion meter just might run a little bit too high. Our poll questions on our YouTube page, please vote. Who would you rather have back for one more season, Trey Smith or Jauan Jennings? So I want you to make the argument between those two. As coming up, we'll visit with Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. So you can have either of those players at their college peak. Now, I'm not saying they're going to come back as pros and all that stuff, but they're that much more mature and that much better. But at their college peak, and we're going to say no blood clots, okay? Who would you add back to this particular 2024 team for 1 year? And right now, it is about 2-1. Jauan Jennings. Several people voting. Vote now. Vote now. And give me your reasons and why on the message board. So, who would you go? I'll let you go first.
The message board is wrong. It's Trey Smith. And I love Jauan Jennings. I love him. I think
the message board's on the poll question, I guess.
Yeah, the poll is wrong. The results are wrong.
Okay.
I love Jauan Jennings.
And it was Sergeant Carter, not Gomer Pyle. Sorry, go ahead.
So if I'm at a bar and a fight's about to break out, I want to be with Jauan Jennings. You know what I mean? Because
I don't know, man. Trey's pretty big.
Yeah, but I don't know. Trey would think rationally and say we should go out, get out. Jauan Jennings is like, I'm going in and I'm going to knock out everybody I can. Jauan Jennings is a fight over flight type of guy. Trey could win the fight, but I think Trey would think more rationally. And sometimes I want the guy who's not going to think rationally at the bar. Okay, so I love Jauan. He's one of my favorite players just from his leadership perspective. But guys, in terms of just actual talent,
wait. I'm sorry. You just can't give him a pass on letting in-house stuff.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I covered that team, Dave. I absolutely can.
No. I did too. So, but the question, but you can't give him a leadership star. I mean, there's no comparison in leadership to him and Trey Smith. I'll just tell you, Trey was there for Cooper Mays. Trey was the leader on that team for those years, and Coop speaks
Trey's
very
a leader too. I was getting to Trey. I was just trying to praise Jawan first to make it clear that I'm not knocking him for what I'm about to say in favor of Trey. Trey Smith, okay, Jauan Jennings has some limitations that could keep him from being a Hall of Fame receiver. Because, his speed's a little bit, he doesn't have the same speed. He's not the most crisp route runner. Trey Smith could be a Hall of Fame offensive guard. That guy could go to the Hall of Fame as an offensive guard. I'm dead serious on that. And
I agree with that. But getting back to your point,
I would take Trey Smith.
If you don't run crisp routes, he's not a great leader. You can't say Jauan Jennings is
he is a great. Ask any. I know you talk about Cooper. Cooper didn't come until after Jauan Jennings came. We should talk to Jacob Warren about this. Ask anybody from that 2019 team about Jauan Jennings' leadership. That guy was the guy you wanted in your foxhole for everything.
Okay, if you can't work on your craft to be a crisp route runner, which you just said, we know the social media. We know the social media thing. We know the social media thing. Listen, I'll give him somewhat of a pass, and I'll say he was a good teammate instead of a horrible teammate. But I'm not giving him great leader. Those are kind of designated for very special individuals, and I think Trey Smith was one of those. I mean, when I talk great leaders, I don't know what kind of numbers you're talking about, but on a 100-man roster with walk-ons, I'm talking about maybe 5 guys.
Yes, Jauan Jennings and Trey Smith were both one of those guys.
Okay.
And so,
I don't know the dynamics, particularly in the locker room that year, but that would somewhat surprise me.
It was for different reasons. They were leaders in a way. Trey Smith was your early 90s Cowboys. Trey Smith was like the Troy Aikman, the measured leader. You know what I mean? The guy that's like, kind of responsible, everything like that. But Michael Irvin was the leader of, I want that guy in my foxhole if something goes down. And that was Jauan Jennings. And I think that, but again, I would take Trey Smith. Also, just let's talk needs for a minute for college. Who does Tennessee need more this year? An offensive guard or a receiver? It's an offensive guard, right?
Yeah. Dan says who brought more value day one in the NFL? That would have been Trey Smith. He was ready to go from the get, but Jauan Jennings was pretty ready to go.
Yeah, he was. Also, yes, Jauan Jennings was pretty ready to go in the NFL, but Trey Smith was. I'm with you. I gotta go Trey Smith, and I think you probably go Trey Smith too. It sounds like you would disagree with the poll results.
Oh yeah,
right?
I would go with Trey. And someone, I think it was Travis, brought up the point he plays every day. I think it is Trey. And I think I would rather have. I think he's going to be an elite offensive guard. I think that Jauan Jennings, when all is said, is going to be a very good receiver. I don't think he's going to be elite. I don't think he's going to be Hall of Fame. I think, Trey, like you said, Trey Smith can be Hall of Fame. So if you had him back, I mean, listen, if you had Trey Smith back, this offensive line is one of the best in the country.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And his heart. We haven't even mentioned his heart. I mean, blood clots. I mean, that stuff can kill you. I know. I've got family members that have had to deal with blood clots. Someone on our staff has had to deal with that. That's scary because, like, in a second, drop dead. I mean, how do you go out there and play and do a physical sport? That's why I mentioned earlier Charles Hathaway. If he decided to give it up because of that and the possible repercussions, which include death, then I don't blame him.
Let's also put this out here real quick. Something that's fair for Trey Smith and Jauan Jennings. By the way, Trey Smith next year, we're going to pay payday. Jauan Jennings is a free agent this year and just had his best game in the Super Bowl, even though he lost. Jauan Jennings is about to get paid. And one of the reasons he is, I think you agree with me, Dave. I know the NFL is different, but coaches talk, don't they, in the NFL? So they recommend players. Everybody's going to recommend Jauan Jennings as a teammate, aren't they? You're going to have former players that play with San Francisco that are going to be like, we want this guy on our team.
Yes, my concern is that he'll be an Alvin Harper, is that he'll go to be a team's number one, and that won't work out. And he's not.
As long as he got the money, it's fine though.
What
the money?
Yeah, for him, there's no question. Imagine Trey and Darnell side by side talking about Darnell Wright.
You had that. Jeremy Pruitt had that.
Yeah,
and he blew it. He had Trey, Darnell, Cooper Mays, Wanye Morris, and Jerome Carvin on an offensive line.
Should
have just ran it every play, right?
Yeah, but you gotta butch it up.